Time is a flat circle, or so they say. But for the crew of the USS Pioneer, time was supposed to be a straight line. Point A, Earth. Point B, Kepler 186f. Duration, 100 years in cryosleep. The mission was simple. Earth was dying. The Pioneer carried the last hope of humanity. 5,000 souls frozen in ice, seeds, DNA, and the sum of human history. They were the seed ship. The backup plan. They went to sleep expecting to wake up as heroes, ready to terraform a new world with shovels and fusion reactors. But space is cold, and machines break. The navigation computer suffered a bit flip error. A single 0 became a 1. The wake-up timer didn't trigger after a century. It kept ticking. While they slept, empires rose and fell. Stars moved in the sky. Evolution marched on. Today on Apex Sci-Fi, we tell the story of a crew that overslept. Not by an hour, not by a year, but by 10 millennia. This is the story of what happens when the ancestors meet their descendants and realize they are no longer the heroes. They are the exhibits. If you love stories that mess with your perception of time, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Let's open the pod. Chapter 1, The Silent Ship. Captain James Ford woke up to the taste of copper and dust. Cryosickness is brutal. It feels like your blood has turned to slush. He fell out of his pod, hitting the metal deck hard. He gasped for air, but the air was stale. Recycled too many times. It tasted like old tombs. Computer, Ford croaked. Lights, status report. Nothing happened. No friendly AI voice. Just a flickering of emergency amber strobes. He looked around. The cryo bay was a graveyard. Many pods were dark, failure, but some, like his, were glowing faintly. He woke his officers. Lieutenant Sarah, Engineer Kale. They stumbled around, weak, confused. Why is it so quiet? Sarah whispered, "Where is the hum of the fusion drive?" Kale checked a wall panel. He wiped away a layer of grime, so thick it felt like felt. "Power is at 2%, Kale said, his voice shaking. "We are running on backup isotopes." "Captain, look at the corrosion." He pointed to the blast doors. The steel wasn't just rusty. It was pitted, eaten away by cosmic radiation over a timescale that didn't make sense. They made their way to the bridge. They had to pry the doors open manually. Captain Ford sat in the command chair. The leather crumbled to dust under his touch. He looked at the chronometer. It was dead. He looked at the star charts. They were offline. "Look out the window," Sarah said. They looked, and they saw the destination. Kepler 186f. But it wasn't the wild, untamed frontier they expected. It was glowing. Chapter 2, The Gods in the Sky. The planet below was a jewel. The oceans were a vibrant, impossible teal. The continents were covered in greenery that looked manicured. But the most shocking thing was the orbit. Massive rings of white light circled the planet, megastructures. Orbital elevators connected the surface to space stations that looked like intricate glass sculptures. Ships moved between them, not with tails of fire, but as streaks of silent light. "We were beaten," Kale whispered. "Someone got here first." "Aliens?" Ford asked. He reached for the weapons locker key. "Did the Covenant beat us here?" "No," Sarah said. Squinting at the sensor, she managed to reboot. "Look at the energy signatures. Look at the radio leakage. It's structured. It's beautiful." Suddenly, the Pioneer shook. Not an impact, a grip, a tractor beam, but not the crude magnetic beams the Pioneer had. This was a manipulation of gravity itself. The old ship stopped drifting and began to glide smoothly toward one of the orbital stations. "They have us," Ford said. "Security team, suit up. We don't know if they are hostile." They gathered in the airlock. They held their projectile rifles, guns that used chemical gunpowder. Crude, primitive. They aimed at the door, shaking, sweating in their old flight suits. The airlock didn't blow open. It simply dissolved. The metal turned into mist and vanished. And then the visitors entered. They didn't walk. They floated inches off the deck. They were tall, averaging 7 feet. Their skin was flawless, glowing with faint bioluminescence. Their eyes were large and lacked irises, swirling with data. They didn't wear spacesuits. They wore robes that seemed to be made of shifting geometry. Ford leveled his rifle. "Stay back. Identify yourselves." The lead being stopped. It looked at the gun. It looked at Ford. And then it smiled. It wasn't a predator's smile. It was a smile a parent gives a toddler holding a plastic sword. "Welcome home, grandfather," the being said. But it didn't speak with a mouth. The voice resonated directly inside their heads. Chapter 3. The Children of Soul. "Grandfather?" Ford lowered his weapon slightly. "We are humans. From Earth." "Who are you?" The being glided forward. "We are also human, or what humanity became." The realization hit the crew like a physical blow. "How?" Sarah asked. "We left 100 years ago." The being shook its head. "No, you left 10,432 years ago." The silence on the deck was absolute. 10,000 years. The glitch, Kale realized, sliding down the wall to sit on the floor. The NAV computer. "We didn't sleep for a century. We slept for an era." The being, who introduced itself as Aeon, explained the history. Earth didn't die. Humanity solved the climate crisis 50 years after the Pioneer left. Then they invented warp drive 200 years later. They arrived at Kepler in weeks, not centuries. They terraformed it. They built cities. They evolved. They merged with technology, cured death, and unlocked the potential of the mind. "We thought your ship was lost," Aeon said gently. "A legend, the lost Arkansas. We have searched for you for millennia. To find you alive is a miracle." Ford looked at his rifle, then at the glowing god-like human in front of him. He felt small. He felt obsolete. "We came to save you," Ford whispered, a tear tracing a line through the dust on his face. "We brought seeds. We brought tools." Aeon nodded. "And we honor that sacrifice. You are the bravest of us. You walked into the dark with fire so we could walk in the light." They weren't conquerors. They weren't saviors. They were relics. Chapter 4. Obsolescence. The integration was painful. The crew of the Pioneer was brought down to the planet. The gravity was perfect. The air was sweeter than anything on Earth. But they didn't fit. They tried to use the technology, but it was telepathic. They couldn't interface. They tried to eat the food, but their gut biomes were too primitive for the nutrient-dense nectar the post-humans consumed. They had to have special historical food synthesized for them. Meat, bread, things the new humans hadn't eaten in eras. Captain Ford sat on a balcony overlooking a city of crystal spires. Aeon sat beside him. "We are useless here," Ford said bitterly. "I am a pilot. I fly ships with joysticks and thrusters. You fly ships with your minds. I am a caveman." "A caveman discovered fire," Aeon replied. "Without the caveman, we do not reach the stars." "But what do we do?" Ford asked. "We can't work. We can't fight. We can't even talk to most of you without a translator." "You live," Aeon said. "You remind us of where we came from. We have forgotten fear, Captain. We have forgotten struggle. Looking at you, looking at your scars, it reminds us of the price of survival." They were given a choice. They could undergo genetic modification, a painful, risky process to uplift them to modern standards, to become like the post-humans. Or they could live in a reserve enclave, a slice of old Earth recreated for them, a place where they could live out their lives as they were. The crew voted. Most chose the enclave. They didn't want to be gods. They just wanted to be human. The Pioneer was landed in the center of the capital city. It was clean, sealed, and turned into a monument, the cradle of the ancestors. School children, floating children with eyes full of galaxies, visited on field trips. They look at the cramped bunks, the analog buttons, the paper books. They look at it with awe. And sometimes they see an old man sitting on a bench near the ship, Captain Ford. He feeds the birds. He tells stories to the children who listen via telepathy. Stories about a blue planet called Earth. Stories about war and pain and stubborn hope. He tells them about the time humanity had to sleep in the dark so that one day their children could wake up in the light. The mission was a failure. They didn't terraform the planet, but in a way it was a success. Humanity survived. They just did it without them. And perhaps that is every parent's dream. For their children grow so tall, they no longer need them to reach the cookie jar. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. If this story made you feel small in the vast river time, leave a like. Comment below. Would you choose to uplift and become a post-human god, or stay a caveman and keep your humanity? Subscribe for more stories from the edge of time. Sleep well. The future is waiting. End recording.